In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for seeking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time, filled with so many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. My own memories of Abe are mostly sweet. His beautiful, gentle soul, his intelligence, his compassion, and his thoughtfulness. The most especially his very wry sense of humor, which I'll remember forever. And my family and I enjoyed so many times spending time with him. We ran at their home in Yeshurun. We were blessed and privileged and honored to be part of the family celebration for so many years. Truly missing.
My friends, we have assembled here this afternoon as a supportive and loving community to join with Fran, her sons, and their wonderful extended family in affirming the role that our special friend Abe played not only in their lives, but ours. 83 of his 85 years were wonderful. And I'm not sure he would have said that the last 2 years, difficult as they were without their own share of smiles and joys. He was a man who enjoyed life and showed it. He always had a big smile on his face and a mischievous twinkle in his eye, which suggested there was something going on in that big brain of his, something that would come out in a prank or dose of his quick wit. It was hard not to like Abe Friedman, a quality that brought him many lifelong friends, some dating all the way back to his years in Korea, where he remained close, even now, with a fellow soldier who went on to become a 4-star general. I always enjoyed talking with Abe. He had this very easygoing way of talking with you that made you feel very comfortable and at home. But no matter how laid back he seemed to be, there was never any doubting that this was one very smart man. It all began 85 years ago in New Orleans, where Abraham was born to Minnie and David Friedman. Though he was born in New Orleans, he actually grew up in a little town 100 miles away called Franklin, where as an only child, he had a delightful childhood. In pre-internet days, he enjoyed listening to ham radio, and though Franklin was far from being a Jewish Mecca, his parents made sure to keep a kosher home and instill in young Abe the importance of being Jewish. Services were held periodically in his home, and Jews would come from around the area to participate. His grandfather, who immigrated from Poland and also lived in Franklin, proved to be a remarkable teacher and influence on young Abe. To become a bar mitzvah, Abe was sent to New Orleans, where he lived with a cousin and studied in an Orthodox shul. After graduating high school, Abe enrolled in Tulane University, where he graduated with a degree in business. By then, he had decided to become a lawyer, and he entered Tulane's law school. During that time, the Korean War was accelerating. Abe had actually been denied an enlistment because the Army said he was too light to serve. However, he was determined to serve his country, and shortly after registering for the second year of law school, he was finally accepted. In the Army, he served many roles. He was an instructor at Fort Sam Houston, then in the 3rd Military Battalion of the 3rd Infantry Division, where he earned a Bronze Star for heroism. After returning home, he remained in the U.S. Army Reserves before retiring with the rank of Major. Once again a civilian, Abe finished his law school studies and set out to serve as an attorney in New Orleans. Unfortunately, in those days, being Jewish was not exactly a strong thing to sell. Many doors were closed to him because of his religious faith. Restless to find work, he went into accounting. He joined the Federal Trade Commission there, and then later pursued private practice as an attorney. Abe's life changed dramatically, though, when he was fixed up with a wonderful young woman who was studying at Sophie Newcomb College next to Tulane. Her name was Frances Dow. In truth, though the arrangement took place by phone earlier, he took his time actually calling her. She was only a sophomore, and he thought she might be a little too young for the more mature Abe that he was. He decided to wait until she was a bit older. When he finally called Fran, she decided to put him off by saying she was too busy to go out because she had exams to prepare for. Eventually, they got together for lunch, and as the old saying goes, the rest is history. She changed her mind about transferring out of Newcomb College, deciding instead to stay put and get to know this rather remarkable young man. Fran told me she was very impressed with him right from the start. He had an expansive knowledge about almost everything, a special fascination and fixation with history and military history. Whatever he read, he retained. He remembered everything. And to top it all off, he was blessed with this rather remarkable sense of humor. And he had this easy and warm way about him. At first, Fran thought to herself, this is the kind of man I'd like to marry. But soon enough, she began to think, this is the man I'd like to marry. Which soon enough she did. For a while, they continued to live in New Orleans, but clearly it wasn't what either of them wanted. The Jewish community back then was very small, not that vibrant. They wanted a different kind of place in which to raise their family. So 2 years into their marriage, they decided to pick themselves up and move to Houston, where Abe joined Fran's brothers, Melvin and Bernie of blessed memory, at Dow Cogburn Dow. Later it became Dow Cogburn Friedman, and remained so until it merged with Winstead PC in 2001. Abe stayed with the combined firm until he retired 6 years later. Abe loved practicing law, and he was very good at it. While many of the original law firm's clients were from within the Jewish community, the Dow family was very well known and respected, as it is still today. Abe had a way about him that attracted clients from the larger community, that he called the other side of the tracks, Houston. They liked his easygoing, affable style, which made them feel right at home. What contributed to Abe's success was a natural interest in people and a strong desire to help people out who came to him with problems. He loved fixing problems and using the law to make things right for people who had been wronged. Over time, he came to represent a number of doctors in the community. He got to know what made them tick and how best to serve their needs. Throughout his career, hard-working and serious as he was, he never lost his sense of humor, nor the ability to mock himself or attorneys in general. He had a self-deprecating cartoon about lawyers sitting prominently right on his desk. In the most serious of deliberations, his quick wit and personable style always worked to his advantage and that of his clients. Throughout his career, he was cited as one of the best lawyers in America by his fellow attorneys. He was known throughout Houston as a man of sound judgment and unshakable integrity. When he retired in 2007 after 51 years, he was deeply moved by a luncheon arranged in his honor at the Houston Club downtown. There he was surrounded by colleagues and friends with whom he had worked for so very long. But what touched him perhaps most of all were the number of former secretaries who came and young attorneys that he had mentored over the years at Dow Cogburn Friedman, men and women who went on to have their own wonderful careers. Proud as Abe was to enjoy such a successful career, he never forgot what ultimately mattered the most in anyone's life: his family. For 53 years, he and Fran built a loving home for one another, and he was ever the supportive and faithful husband. Whatever Fran wanted to do, he encouraged her to do. When she wanted to go back to school to get her master's, even with 3 children in the house, he told her to follow her dreams. He encouraged her to take positions of leadership in the Jewish Federation, Jewish Family Service, and so many other organizations in Houston. And if her volunteer activities might keep her from the grocery store, he was happy to go. It was no problem for him getting dinner on the table on those nights when Fran was called to a meeting or special event. He loved being with Fran and sharing in their common affection for theater and the arts. Together they enjoyed traveling to places like San Francisco, which he particularly loved, and Northern California, Carmel, and of course Israel. Fran told me she was particularly appreciative of his support and encouragement when she was beset with eye problems a few years ago that quickly worsened. Abe insisted, despite his own busy schedule, on going to all her doctor's appointments. When they learned of a renowned doctor in New York that could potentially help Fran, he took the time off to fly up there with her together. And when it became clear that the prognosis was not what they had hoped for, it was into Abe's open arms that Fran tearfully fell. He was Fran's best friend, always her counsel and advisor, an endless source of practical wisdom and guidance. Abe was a giving father to his 3 boys, David, Paul, and Randy, as well. Growing up, they loved his sense of humor and the way he made things funny and at times silly. Their dad was a prankster, always ready to do something to make everyone feel comfortable and at ease. He didn't mind making himself look foolish either, if it put out a good laugh from everyone in the room. When the boys were little, he took them to Kitty Wonderland with all the other Jewish kids over on Main Street. On Sunday morning, Fran's only day off after caring for the 3 kids so completely the other 6 days of the week, Abe would take the boys early to a diner for breakfast, then maybe to the Hyatt Regency to ride the amazing elevators up and down, or to the observation deck at the Port of Houston to watch all the ships coming and going. The boys loved their dad's playful spirit. He had new names for many Jewish prayers, like the Vulcan prayer, for example. You know, Avinu Volcanu. He worked really hard to provide each of his sons with his time and attention. And they in turn told me yesterday that even though their dad worked long and hard hours, he seemed to always be around when they needed him, or when something special happened in their lives. Similarly, he was home and ate with his family every night without fail. It meant sitting down for dinner at 7, but he was there, and their evenings together were fun. The boys would never forget the many times he would seem to be saying something serious and important, but all of a sudden he would take a left turn and left everyone laughing. He was a celebrated jokester who could pull a prank with the best of them. He was so proud of each of his boys and the qualities that made each one unique. And when they in turn brought Tony and Brenda into the family, he welcomed them as the daughters he had never had. And finally, as a grandfather, Abe loved being with his beautiful grandkids, Taylor, Hudson, Cameron, Ellie, Mika, and Zoe. He adored them all and loved just sitting on the couch with them all around him. The more they were hugging him and climbing on him, the happier he was. And though he loved all the grandkids equally, he was happy to have a couple of grandsons who would carry the Friedman name. Whether he was called Zadie, as he was by the New York grandkids, or Abe, as he was by those in New York. Zadie was New York, and Abe was those in California. He had a deep emotional appreciation for his many blessings each time he was around one or all of them. Even in the last months when he was ill, seeing the grandkids seemed to bring out something. Yes, there was much joy in Abe's life, but there were challenges as well. The onset of leukemia several years ago, and then more recently, the devastating impact of Parkinson's disease presented many hardships to Abe. But amazingly, he remained resolute in his determination to still live and enjoy life. He was encouraged each day by Fran, who remained steadfastly by his side through all of his doctor's visits, all the treatments, all the setbacks, all the moments which would test anyone's spirit. Fran remained unfalteringly his strength, almost never leaving his side. Though in many ways the life she had lived with Abe was gone. She told me earlier this summer, still, the spirit and soul of the man she loved still shine through. Her love for him and his love for her never waned. For Abe, it was not only Fran and his children and grandchildren that kept his spirits aglow. It was his faith, the joy he took in his Jewish heritage. A few weeks ago, he told Fran that he wanted to go to Beth Yeshurun for Kol Nidre. He got dressed in his nice shirt and slacks, chose a tie and put on a jacket. He decided he didn't want to go in a wheelchair, he wanted to go in a walker. He struggled making it out of their home to the elevator, and from the elevator down to the car. They made it possible for him to get into the passenger side and close the door. Once inside, he turned to Fran and said, "I think that's enough. I'm too weak to go." They returned together to their home and watched the service on our website. But just a couple of weeks later, when Lydia and Benjamin Musher invited Fran and Abe to join in their sukkah for dinner, Abe didn't say to himself, "I had a hard time the last time. I shouldn't even try again now." Instead, he told Fran that he truly wanted to go, only this time he did. Getting there was hard, but he was determined. Significantly diminished as he was, Jewish life and observance was still and remained important to him, and he wanted to be part of it. His determination to come to the synagogue on Kol Nidre and on Sukkot with the Mushers was indicative of his desire to keep trying, to keep living, to keep going. It also reflected his passionate desire to remain engaged in the Jewish life that had always meant so much to him. And finally, a last reflection, one from right at the end of his life. When Abe and Fran's home was among hundreds washed away on that terrible weekend of Memorial Day. So much had to be done, so much cleanup, dragging water-damaged books, carpets, everything to the street. As Fran moved around their home, feverishly trying to do everything that needed to be done, there was Abe, so frail, so tired, asking her nonetheless over and over, what could he do? How could he help? What can I do? How can I help? Again and again. He must have known that there was nothing his frail body could do, but his heart was still full, still alive, still aching to help as he always had before. When Fran told me these stories, I was truly touched. How hard it must have been for him. What challenges he knew he would have to face. Just getting up, getting out. Yet it spoke volumes to me about the character of Abe Friedman. For here was a man who had always celebrated life, always wanted to share a smile, a joke, always loved being with his wife and family, with people, being Jewish, fully human, which he was to the very last day of his life. Abe Friedman's life was filled with joy. The joy he gave others, the joy others gave to him. We will miss this man who did so much, helped so many, had so much love and heart and courage. A man about whom we truly pray, Zichrono Livracha. This life surely will be for a blessing. Amen. I'd like to now call upon David, Paul, and Randy.
Whenever our father spoke at continuing legal education conferences, he always opened his remarks with the same comment. He would tell everyone present, "It's okay for you to check your watch while I'm speaking, but it's not all right to shake your wrist to see if the watch has stopped." We have a lot of fun things to say about our father, and we hope that none of you will be checking your watches. Dad was born the only child of David and Minnie Friedman in Franklin, Louisiana, the parish seat of St. Mary's Parish, back in 1930. At the time, the population of Franklin was around 5,000 people. Dad's grandfather owned a dry goods store named A. Friedman and Sons on Main Street, where Dad's father and eventually Dad worked. The Friedmans were one of only a handful of Jewish families in Franklin at the time, and his unique take on life was shaped by his childhood in a small South Louisiana town.
Dad went to Tulane for college, though he had never visited the campus before attending. When we asked Dad why he hadn't visited the school, he shrugged it off by saying, choosing a college just wasn't that big a deal then. When we were considering college, Dad took great pride in taking us to visit Yale and UCLA to make sure that we were completely comfortable with our college choice. While in law school, Dad was set up with Mom by his aunt from Houston, Ethel Slipikoff. When Mom returned from a day of classes for her first date with Dad, Dad was waiting in front of her dorm room wearing a coat and tie. He took Mom to Commander's Palace, a legendary New Orleans restaurant, for lunch. Dad was always the classy guy. Dad did not know much about Mom when they first met, other than that she was a student at Newcomb College, but he wondered about the name Dow. Could Francis Dow be related to Dow Chemical Company? He might have hit it big. Although it turned out that Mom was not related to Dow Chemical, after a brief courtship followed by marriage, our grandfather, Harry Dow, one of the most well-respected attorneys in Houston, offered Dad a job at his firm, allowing Mom and Dad to make the move to Houston, where Dad was able to practice law with our grandfather and our two uncles, Melvin and Bernie Dow, of blessed memory.
Dad served as a medical officer in the Army in Korea. Although he was 4F, he volunteered for service. His experiences in Korea were life-changing. Dad learned skills that translated to his role later in life as a father, such as diagnosing our ailments. When our knees hurt, it must be measles. If we stubbed a toe, then we had scoliosis, both of which, like every other medical issue, were easily cured by sleep. Dad also used his sense of humor to put us at ease when administering medicine when we were kids. As he lifted the spoon towards our mouths, he would say, "Over the lips and through the gums, watch out stomach, here it comes." When Mom and Dad moved into their first apartment in New Orleans, the Bayou Apartments, Dad liked the sample furnished unit they had found so much that he bought all the furniture in it. It was New Orleans where they started a family. My oldest brother David was born. They took David and the furniture with them when they moved to Houston, where they lived in a tiny apartment a few feet from the Southern Pacific Railroad at the Rutledge, right off the bayou. Despite its close proximity to the railroad tracks, the Rutledge was down the street from Three Brothers Bakery, close to Beth Yeshurun, and close to Mom's family.
After a short period of time in Houston, Dad realized that Mom was related to nearly every person in town. This meant that the two of them would always attend a large number of family events. Dad developed a sixth sense at these occasions, which allowed him to determine from which way the food would be entering the room. He would swiftly position himself in an ideal spot, and friends and family would always notice that Dad seemed to have a full plate ahead of everyone else. And Dad always explained this. When people asked him how this was possible, he said, "Well, there are two kinds of people, the quick and the hungry." Dad's professional accomplishments were extremely impressive. He was consistently included in the best lawyers in America and in Texas Monthly magazine's Super Lawyers and Top Lawyers list. Dad's legal colleagues were also thought very highly of him, and he was peer rated as AV preeminent for many years in the Martindale Public Directory. Dad's principles guided him both in legal practice and in life. He taught us to analyze problems, to identify the essentials, and to make rational decisions.
Dad was an active member of Beth Yeshurun Synagogue for many years, and religion played a very important role in his life. Of all the committees that you can choose to get involved with at the temple, Dad chose the cemetery committee. And he was an active member of the cemetery committee for many years. At one point, the city of Houston was going to take part of the cemetery's land to use as a right-of-way. Dad used his legal contacts and hired an attorney who specialized in eminent domain. After a struggle with the city, Beth Yeshurun prevailed and was able to keep the land. At one point, Dad was exceptionally busy with work and thought he might not be able to continue his work on the committee. Before he left for a meeting one evening, he told Mom that he needed to resign from the committee. When he came home that evening after the meeting, Mom met him at the door and asked, "Well, Abe, how did it go?" He looked at her, shrugged his shoulders, and said, "Well, now I'm the chairman of the committee." When Randy and I had our kids, Dad added a new title to his resume, Saba. Dad relished his role as a grandfather and loved the time that he spent with his grandkids. Having Taylor, Hudson, and Cameron around reminded Dad of the frenetic energy of being in a home with 3 boys. With Ellie, Mika, and Zoe, Dad was welcomed into the loving little world of little girls. Dad was comfortable knowing that a new generation of Friedmans, committed to his ideals, would be moving forward.
Well, we certainly do and will miss our father terribly. We learned a great deal from him all the time, whether it was discussing important campaigns of World War II or legal theory over the dinner table, which happened frequently, or whether it was his bringing home Supreme Court reports of famous cases for me to read, or indeed taking us all fishing for perch with bamboo poles. He was truly a multifaceted person, and we learned a great deal from him. Throughout their marriage, and particularly in the last 2 years, when Dad was suffering, Mom was always by his side. She drove him to numerous doctor's appointments, monitored and refilled repeatedly his medications, encouraged him, coached him through physical therapy and swallow therapy, made endless trips to Jerry Bill Burgers for lunch whenever Dad craved a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake, which was rather often. She provided the love and devotion that was incredibly important to them in their 53 years of marriage. They were partners and committed to each other, and that certainly meant more to them than anything. Mom has been a source of strength for all of us, and we will certainly try to be that for her, as she was for us and for Dad. She's very strong and clear thinking and wise. She brought Dad love and joy and comfort, and Mom, we certainly love you very much.
When Ellie, Mika, and Zoe asked me where I thought Zadie Abe went, I told them that at first when he passed I was very sad because I'd made the mistake of thinking that he was gone. And I looked around the hospital room and I saw my brothers David and Paul and our mom, and I realized that Zadie Abe was in all of us. And that through us and through our families, with Tony and Brenda, and Taylor and Hudson, and Cameron and Ellie and Mika and Zoe, that Zadie Abe was a part of a lot of people. So Taylor and Hudson and Cameron and Ellie and Mika and Zoe, take a look around at the room that's filled now. Look around at the synagogue, at all of the people who are here, And think about all of the people who couldn't make it. Look at how much your Zadie, look at how much Abe did, and look how many people he touched. There are many people gathered here today who meant so much to our Father. He was proud of the friendships that he formed, and he would be touched by the showing of love from everyone in this room.
Please rise for the memorial prayer. You may be seated for just a moment. My friends, following our service, we will reassemble at Beth Yeshurun's Post Cemetery for interment. Those of you who would like to join us at the cemetery are welcome to form a line of cars on Franklin, which is the street abutting Beth Yeshurun on the west side. Tonight we will be distributing Beth Yeshurun in our Friedman Abe sanctuary at 6 o'clock. Additional services will take place here at Beth Yeshurun and Friedman Abe on Saturday and Sunday nights, also at 6 o'clock. Friend will continue attending services in J.D. Chapel on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday afternoons at 5:30. And Wednesday morning, all in the Greenville Chapel. I now ask everyone to please rise and remain at your seats for the processional casket and the family from the cemetery.